Welcome back to the channel. It's time to talk about the very best comic book that you can support this week with your hard-earned dollars, money, and time. And here with me, as always, is Drew from Comics Lead. How you doing, Drew?
Doing great, Wes. It's a great week. Terrific weather this week. It's Memorial Day weekend, race weekend. But let's talk about comics before the race. Let's do this.
Absolutely. And not surprising, we're going to start out with indie comics and a man that is just on absolute fire. Nightclub #5, Image Comics, Mark Millar, Juan and Ramirez. This is the penultimate issue. There's one more in this particular miniseries. It's been a revelation. It's been a lot of fun. This thing gets a whole lot darker in this particular issue. We start learning about this would-be mentor for these vampire superheroes in training. Used to be a cop, and now he's a vampire cop, and he's on their side. We met these bad vampires. I guess they're a biker gang or whatever. It turns out they played a little part in him becoming a vampire, and you find out the true nature of these biker gang vampires that these kids are going to be coming up against, and you kind of realize that they have bitten off way more than they could possibly chew with these guys. Like, they are a bigger threat than they possibly could have imagined.
Yeah, like I said, bigger threat and almost an ancient, not necessarily ancient threat, but they're an old threat. And a lot of them are so unique and different in very many ways that I love. They're very colorful. They're very dark, very creepy. I love this stuff that Mark is doing. But the only downside to this comic right now is that there's one more issue. I can't. He's got a lot to wrap up in one more issue. Now, hopefully, obviously, this won't be the end of it because there is so much to explore with this world and these vampires. But it's almost too much to wrap up with one more issue. But I'm having so much fun with this. This is a great vampire comic. The characters are great. The cop vampire reminds me of that show Forever Night back in the 80s and 90s. The cop vampire, great stuff. If you love a new great, I wouldn't necessarily say a twist, but a good take, a new dark take on vampires. This is it right here. And it kind of reminds me of that movie Near Dark from the 80s as well with Bill Paxton, which is really damn good. Do check this out, guys. Nightclub is a terrific vampire series.
Yeah, everything about that comic book is great. Nothing better, obviously, than the price being $1.99, but the art by Juan and Ramirez has been absolutely spectacular. You're not going to find a better value for your dollar in comic books than Nightclub. Definitely check out that issue. Sticking with the Mark Millar bandwagon, also from Image Comics, The Ambassadors #5, Mark Millar, Matteo Buffanghi. On this one, this isn't my favorite issue of The Ambassadors yet, but this is easily my favorite character that they've introduced in The Ambassadors. I'm a big fan of this guy, Australia, and I like that there's a little bit of a conflict of interest as whether or not he can actually join the Ambassadors because he's a little bit more outspoken on certain things. But he is a hero through and through. He's looking for a second chance in life. He's not in the best shape. He wants to be a part of the program, and I'm absolutely rooting for him. He is absolutely the easiest character to like in this whole thing. Not a whole lot of mystery to him. He is who he says he is.
That's one thing that's great about this issue is that when he says he wants to be part of the team, the Willy Wonka of this series, if you will, she more or less tells him that no, after what you did as a prime minister, what you said came out on certain topics, no, there's no way we expect you to do this. You're going to do this. But then he says, oh, by the way, I was actually such and such. She was like, oh, really? Okay. Well, if that's true, you're going to have to come out and make this statement about it. And he's like, done. Sure. Whatever. That he does what he has to do. And yeah, like you said, he is a full out hero through and through, doing what he can, sacrificing himself to save people who are, despite what he thinks about them, what their cause is for, he's going to do what he can to save them. But we also get another wrinkle in the plot with a certain other character who popped up in issue 1 at the end of it.
Like an underground hero.
Yes, he's kind of like the beta version of him, and how he was worked on. And then we get to see as well the evil billionaires at the end, what's going on with them, and it's not looking too good for what's going to happen with their heroes. And it looks like there may be a traitor in the midst, but we'll find out in the next issue, which is also the final issue. What the hell? Both of these series have so much to wrap up in their final issues. How can these possibly be the end? That's my one complaint about this. So much to wrap up in one issue, but you can't really go wrong with this. You're getting your bang for your buck. But the art, the story, the drama, the intrigue, the plot twists. This Mark Millar is firing on all cylinders. He is the creator right now in comics. Please do check out anything he's writing right now, especially The Ambassadors.
What the hell is Mark Millar trying to do to us? We've been used to recommending a Mark Millar comic basically every single segment for 3 or 4 or 5 months now with Nightclub, the Ambassadors, the Magic Order, all that kind of stuff, and they're all ending at the same time. Mark Millar shouldn't be doing that to us.
I know.
These things out, buddy. Although I guess Big Game is coming up.
Yes, that's going to be the one, pretty much like the only one right now we're going to be able to recommend. Because I already know going into it, how could it not be a recommend at this point? Because he set the bar so high right now. Anything that's average, it's not good, in my opinion. He's going to knock it out of the park. I know he is.
And obviously, he set that up with Nemesis Reloaded there, too.
Loved it. Loved the ending to Nemesis Reloaded. We didn't get a chance to talk about it that week. But yeah, I love the ending to it, and I cannot wait for that one to come out.
So our final indie comic book recommendation is coming from Dynamite 007 for King and Country #2, Philip Kennedy Johnson, Giorgio Spalletta on art here. I personally am not the biggest 007 fan. I personally like a John Wick or a Jason Bourne type thing. I'm not really into the posh spy superhero, whatever. But I think Phil Kennedy Johnson's doing some really cool stuff here. I didn't like his previous series, but I'm really liking this one. And the threat that he's built up here, it's like they're basically have taken over the entire world, and they're coming after Bond and this other agent that's kind of laying low with him as they're trying to evade everybody. 002 already came after him. Now they found like a retired person that used to be in the service or whatever. And it turns out there's nowhere for him to hide anymore. This is the ultimate threat, bigger than any threat Bond has ever faced before.
Yeah, and it was very strange seeing him with a full-on beard. I think the last time I saw Bond with a full-on beard was that Pierce Brosnan Die Another Day film when he had that Robinson Crusoe beard on. But yeah, he's pretty much in hiding right now, and they're trying to regroup, figure out what they're going to do. But there was an interesting point in the book where I had to do like a triple take on it, because there's a point in it where Bond he abruptly changes him and the girl he's with. They change disguises more or less, and his beard is gone, dyes his hair. It's like, wait a minute, that's Bond, because there's no. It just changes. You pick up on the names afterwards. It doesn't tell you that it's them. It's like, oh, no transition there. Got it. But yeah, it was a fun book nonetheless. Yeah, it's better than anything Danny Laura's done, anything Greg Pak did. Yeah, it's a very fun action-packed read. I'm more of a Bond fan, so I enjoyed this issue more than the prior two issues. So I will be coming back for the next one to see what happens.
So that'll do it for our indie comic book recommendations. Definitely Mark Millar leading the way as always. Big game is on the horizon. Let's go over to Marvel Comics. We've got a couple of throwback series, which are basically the only thing we're recommending from Marvel these days outside of like a Moon Knight and maybe a Ghost Rider every once in a while. Storm #1 and Nascenti, Sid Kotian. We're getting the Mohawk Storm from back in the day. There's more action in this in like the first 5 pages than you will see in most story arcs from Marvel Comics these days. It's action-packed, balls to the wall. If you like the X-Men from back in the day, from 30 years ago or whatever, this is going to be a welcome addition to your comic reading life.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, I will say I wouldn't necessarily call it a weak point, but the art is so different in this. The art is very unique in this. I was talking to Joe Corallo about this because I told him, hey, Ann knocked it out of the park with this issue. The one weird part is the art. The art is kind of like a mixture of Howard Chaykin, Alan Davis, and Walt Simonson. It's a very weird combo, a trifecta in this comic. But like you said, the action, it just kicks off with the action. We have the X-Men fighting the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. It's great stuff. So yeah, this story takes place around the time of Uncanny X-Men 175. So it's right before Storm loses her powers, and it's right around the time when Henry Peter Gyrick is talking with the U.S. government and saying like, "Hey, we got to take down the X-Men. We got to take down Storm." So he has to get Forge to bring them on board to take them out. But yeah, great stuff here. So much great dialogue in this. We have so much great dialogue in being exchanged between the X-Men. We understand they're each talking so differently and uniquely. It's not what you're getting anymore at all from characters at Marvel, or let alone the X-Men, and gets these characters. And I enjoyed the banter back and forth with each other. The stuff between Kitty Pryde and Storm is fantastic. Between Storm and Wolverine, Storm and Xavier, it's all great. It is all perfect and top notch, and is killing it with this issue. And I love the mystery that they're setting up with the possible climate change maybe is affecting Storm's powers and what's going on in the ocean. If you've been waiting for a great X-Men comic, this is it. Do jump on board with this. Ann Nocenti is a legend. She killed it with this issue. Do check out Storm #1, guys.
And to add on to what you're saying about the characterization, I just had a conversation with Aaron Sparrow, and the video will be up here, within the next week or so. And one of the examples we gave was like X-Men characterization, X-Men dialogue back in the day was so great because of that conflict. It's just not there anymore. So definitely be looking out for that if you want a great example of what Drew's talking about there. Our next big recommendation from Marvel is Warlock Rebirth #2. Ron Mars, Ron Lim back together. They had their Silver Surfer throwback series. Now they've got their Adam Warlock throwback series. I personally am not the biggest Adam Warlock fan, so I actually took a skipperoonie on this one. Not because I thought it would be bad or anything. It just wasn't a character whose history I was all that invested in, and I haven't read enough of him. But I know you think this thing is absolutely amazeballs.
Yeah, and well, I will say, like you, I'm not the biggest Adam Warlock fan. I do like Adam Warlock, but I will say, reading this series and reading this issue, despite what Ron Mars may say online, taking that completely out of the picture, what he's done here as a writer, he's made it very simple for anyone to understand the motivations behind Adam Warlock, what he does, what he's doing, the power set. It's very simple. Anyone can jump on board with it. You understand why he is a good guy, why he is a good character. And I'm on board with that. I love that. He made it very simple. And that's what a great writer can do. He can take a kind of a complex character and make it very simple for anyone to understand. And that's what's going on here. And we see that more or less he's been replaced by Eve Warlock, and we finally discover who has created this Eve Warlock to replace Adam Warlock. And it makes sense. If you watch a certain Marvel film recently, this character may or may not be in this comic. And so many great elements in this book, from the Infinity Stones to this big villain to Adam Warlock to the Genis Vell. The relationships, the dialogue, the art by Ron Frenz is terrific stuff, guys. This is great 90s Marvel fun action comics right here, guys. Do check out Adam Warlock Rebirth #2. So much fun.
Nothing really in continuity for Marvel matters anymore, and the only things worth reading are 30 years ago that aren't ever going to affect the things that we're reading, but at least we have this to read for Marvel. They're just in a weird state right now.
Very weird state, and it really shows you the talent set, who the talent are that are working on these out-of-continuity stories compared to the ones who are doing the in-continuity stories. In my opinion, as a writer, critic of comics, these guys working on these out-of-continuity stories, they understand character motivations. Characters need to sound differently. There needs to be action. You can't just have a bunch of people sitting around like jackasses talking about food or their books they're reading and wine. It's not going to happen with these guys. They understand it is a visual medium, needs to be action-centered, and that's what makes a Marvel comic.
Absolutely. So Marvel's in a weird place. DC seems to be a little bit up on the rise now. We've gotten some good debuts during Dawn of DC. We'll see what springs out of that. We're definitely going to recommend Green Arrow #2. Josh Williamson, Sean Isaacs on this one. I didn't even have this one on my list because I didn't want you to embarrass me again because you didn't like the first issue. This is pretty interesting stuff. We definitely get more Oliver Queen Green Arrow in this particular issue, so I like that one. I did not particularly like some of the new costumes that we saw in this one, and I'm definitely tired of Peacemaker, but on the whole, I think Green Arrow is a good series, and I think it's going some really interesting places that I'm going to enjoy. Just get Peacemaker out of here, man. I've had enough of the fucking character.
Yeah, I was talking to a lot of other YouTubers about this. Peacemaker is popping up in a lot of the DC comics recently, a lot of them, him and Amanda Waller, and I think it's too much. He's getting to the point where it's overexposure, much like Harley Quinn or Deadpool or Batman is right now. Just use him very sparingly. He should maybe be showing up in one comic, not every other comic from DC Comics. Don't do that. You're going to make him, you overexpose him. You're going to make people tired of him very quickly. No one's going to want to see him. So I think that's a big misstep right there. But back to Green Arrow. Yeah, I liked issue 1. I thought it was okay, but I didn't like the fact it was more of a Green Arrow and family comic, not instead of Green Arrow. But in this issue, Oliver Queen is pretty much front and center in this book. And I love that. And like you said, I'm not a big fan of his current costume. It's like an alien homeless man Green Arrow costume, if you want to put it that way. It's very weird. But I do love the dialogue he has in this. The action is awesome. See great stuff with Roy Harper. He's arming up. That's why he's called. You see why he's called Arsenal. And get to see the boxing glove arrow show up again. I always love seeing the boxing glove arrow. Yeah, there's some great stuff here, guys. Do check out Green Arrow #2. If you liked issue #1, I think you'll enjoy issue #2 much more because I know I did.
Yeah, I do love seeing me some Roy Harper. He's actually one of my more favorite characters that we don't see all that much. So it's nice to see him get a little bit of a spotlight during his return to the DC Comics universe. And that will wrap up our recommendations for this week. We've got 6 big recommendations, 3 indie comics, 2 Marvel comics, and 1 DC. Drew, I know you had something else that you wanted to talk about regarding an old school comic artist.
Eli Stone, he's the first person to draw the Tick after the creator Ben Edlund had. And now Eli Stone has come out of semi-retirement, and he's taking commissions for sketches, covers, whatever you want. I'm on his list. My brother got on his list. He got a Chairface Chippendale, and several other people have as well. He's incredibly nice, incredibly talented, and has a great sense of humor. His work on the Tick is one of the reasons as to why I'm a creator now. And if you like the Tick, or want to support an all-around great creator like Eli Stone, this guy is amazing, and his work is incredible. His work is very reasonably priced as well, much lower than you'll get at a convention. Trust me, this is a very rare opportunity, guys. Eli Stone.
We have come to the end of the road. There's no more video to really talk about great comic books, but I've done like over 2,000 videos on my channel. Based on what you have watched on YouTube and based on what I have created, YouTube has decided this is the video you should watch next right now. The best video I ever created in my life, specifically for you. Check it out right now.